Okay, good evening, Eric-san. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Konbanwa. So good to see you. Thank you so much for making yourself available.
Yeah.
Typically, we should begin any conversation, any talk with a joke. So you have heard of the saying that Mark Twain said, "Before you criticize somebody, walk a mile in his shoes." Right? Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So when they say walk a mile in their shoes, that means to put yourself in their place, right? That's what
Oh
he
yeah.
meant to say. Okay. So Mark Twain said, if you do that, when you do criticize the person, you will be a mile away and you will have his shoes. So distance. Distance is a boundary, space and distance between people, right? So when you criticize somebody and you are a mile away and then you have his shoes, so you are pretty safe from retaliation. What we have here is the art of execution framework. It's a set of principles for organizational transformation. And this is the second video we are doing together based on your agreement or your idea. In this case, your agreement. We are talking about boundary skills today. Boundary skills are one of the most important foundational and key principles in life. And if you remember from last week on the pacing video we did together, there's always personal, interpersonal, group, managerial, or organizational. So we will see how the boundary skills are applicable to the four levels here. And as you can see, I have put your name without your permission, Jerry and Eric Wang-san. So over time, we can give you some topics and you can also say your piece. Even tonight, if you have some ideas you want to share, by all means. And then
Yeah.
eventually, if you like, yeah, great. Eventually, if you like to create a video where you are the main speaker, like when you come back from Japan, 1 month in Japan, if you want to give a highlight of your visit to the Pure Land temple or to your grandparents' house, whatever, we can do a talk and we can figure out the principles together. We have boundaries which are space and time, space, temporal boundaries. Some things may seem like a big deal. It's like, oh, it's terrible. I can't believe it. The sky has fallen down. But if you give it some time, some space, 1 day, 1 week, 6 months, 8 months, you don't even remember what happened. Time as a boundary. Emotional boundary. When somebody is really angry with you, somebody is jumping, yelling and getting in your face, we can train ourselves not to take on their energy. So we can train ourselves to not pick up people's emotions and not fill ourselves with their anger, jealousy, greed, violent, whatever ways. These are all skills which you can train yourself. Psychological boundary is people try to make you think and feel a certain way, and you can train yourself because the Buddha said, "He who lives outside dreams, he who looks within awakens." All of the control in life should be internal because only you know who you are, only you know what you like, only you know how you feel. So how can somebody tell you how you should live your life? They can support you, they can give you ideas, but it's really up to you to choose. And that's why boundaries are very important, that you make the best choices for yourself. So you'll be happy with what you get, whether it's good or bad. Financial boundary, when people go out to eat, even husband and wife, they keep on their own separate checking accounts. When you go out to eat with coworkers, do you pick up the tab? Do you take turn paying, or you go Dutch? That means you pay for yourself. Boundary between life and death is gonna be a big topic. Now you are very young, so it's not really important now. But the Buddhist masters and many Christian and Hindu masters as well, they soar between the line of the boundaries between life and death, like the great eagle soaring over the land. So how they reincarnate. The Dalai Lama is the 14th Dalai Lama. He navigates to a new body. So if you watch YouTube, Kundun, Kundun, you can see the story of his life. So everything in duality is on a continuum. From the tallest tree to the shortest tree, there are two extreme endpoints, and then you have everything in between. And from the fastest car on earth to the slowest car, you have cars going at different speeds in between. So the continuums are filled. So all of life, when we went out to have noodle soup with Ye last weekend, culinary boundaries, we invited you to try the large intestine noodle soup, and you tried the egg and tomato noodle soup, and you didn't eat your beef noodle soup, right? So you set boundaries, like some things you don't like to eat, something you may like to eat, so on. So boundaries are everywhere. So the point of the last bullet here is to say we are always discriminating, we are always choosing based on some boundary. So this topic is really very important. Intergenerational boundaries. What does that mean? A transition person does not take the negative patterns they see at school, at work, amongst their siblings, in the family, and pass it to the person next to him. The person takes the transition person, in this case, I'm talking about you, Eric-san. You will create a future where there are positive patterns. You take what's good and you keep it with you. Whatever is not good, you change it and you align with some correct principles. The knowledge, right? So what we've been talking about are basically insights and the knowledge of the principles. And if you like the principles, if you understand them, you want to apply them, then if you have the desire to do so, and then if you have the skills, then you will need to practice. Maybe I can practice with you, you can practice with your dad. You will form new habits. And when you sow a thought, you reap an action. Sow an action, you reap a habit. Sow a habit, you reap a character. Sow a character, you reap a destiny. So this is about creating a life. And personally, I have used these principles to create my life. Not that my life is good or bad, but in many ways, I'm only beginning. I have spent the last 20, 30 years studying this kind of stuff. So intergenerational tendencies, dysfunctional tendencies, can be passed down through upbringing, unconsciously. And as you heard Nai-Nai's story, she was behind the communist line when she was 13 to 16. She went through a lot of trauma. And you remember that, right?
Yeah.
So Ye was also a refugee to Taiwan. So a lot of things had to be relearned. So I already defined what a transition person is. You can take a look at it afterwards if you are interested. The idea with these videos we are doing, they are very dense. They are packed full of information, and I'm talking very quickly through them and not even very clearly. The idea is you can come back to it and you can watch it in the future when time comes. And I promise you, some of these skills are very foundational. It's taken me 20, 30 years to understand, to study, to come to this understanding. And if you can get them within a short amount of time, you are saving 10, 20 years. So we tend to go for lose-win or lose-lose, or we go for win-lose. And those are not the most beneficial outcome for people in the company, at work, at home. Boundary issues, right? When you and I, as I mentioned, when I ran a Jimmy Stewart marathon, the first time I ran it was 26 years ago, 1993. I pushed myself so hard I threw up. And when we went to Rio Hondo with Ye to do interval training by the track, you had a stomach cramp, right?
Yeah, I ate too much pizza.
Yeah, I remember that. So that is an example of the boundaries your body had. We did not respect the boundaries of the body, and we were asking the body to do something. So that's just one example of boundary with the self. And the idea is we need to listen and we need to love ourselves. That's not to say we want to be weak. We don't want to push beyond our limits, but we should do it in such a way that we become stronger from our efforts and we do not damage ourselves and get sick, right?
Yeah.
And and imagine if you continue to run and your stomach was cramping already, but you kept on you kept on pushing yourself. There are two kinds of pain. One kind of pain is where you are getting fatigued and you are exhausted and you keep on going. You are breaking down the muscles and the muscles will become stronger and your lungs will become stronger from working hard to increase your stamina and your lung capacity. But if you do it in such a way that you are tearing the tendons, you are tearing your ligaments, then you are doing permanent damage to yourself. So the idea is you sometimes people sell themselves at work. I really, for example, some people hate what they are doing, but they continue to do it for the money. Some people they hate their bosses, they hate their coworkers, and they really don't like how the coworkers or the teachers are behaving, but then they put up with it because they want the money, right? Then over time they become weaker and weaker. They become more and more victimized. They become resentful, and these people are becoming codependent people. So a codependent self is a person who disrespects the self, who does not to empower himself, herself to do what he or she really wants to do. So what you have here, you are with people who love you, who will give you money, who will give you promotion only if you perform the way they want you to. And that's called prostitution or slavery, right? And that is a boundary problem there, right? So first of all, we have boundary with ourselves and we have boundary with other people. And there are times I go to work, people are very aggressive. They talk down to me. Oh, do you know project management 101? They talk to me like as if I am an idiot, and maybe I am. And so that happens to me, at work. And I don't escalate. I don't fight with them because it's pointless. If you wrestle with the pig in the mud, you will both get dirty, and the pig is going to enjoy it, right? So I'm not trying to put down anybody else. But some people, if their specialty is in fighting and getting upset, I definitely should not engage them in a fight because that's what they do, and that's not what I do. So what I do is I focus on my goal. I focus on what I want to accomplish for the company, for the project, for myself, for the family, for my kids, for you, for whoever. I focus on my goal and I let the arguments go. It's not important. If they think I'm stupid, I'm okay with it because as we'll see in a future slide, when I accept and I love myself unconditionally, people cannot really make me feel bad. Make some sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we were talking about boundary issues with personal, interpersonal, and group. The classical codependent dysfunctional family is where, for example, the father is an alcoholic, and after he drinks, he will be angry if somebody makes a sound. If he turns somebody, I don't know, cries or asks for something, he will get all upset. So everybody tiptoes around him, and everybody is afraid to ask for certain things, to do certain things. So all of them modify their behavior to adapt to the person who is sick, right? So the alcoholic is dependent on the alcohol, on the drink, and everybody else is dependent on him, and they all change their behavior to fit him, and that's called codependent. And there's a book. Codependent basically is you put somebody else's welfare and comfort above yours. And that's okay if you do it once or twice. But if you do it for 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, pretty soon you don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then you are just a victim. You're not happy. It's like, God, you don't know what you like. You don't know what you want. And then we have groups which are devoted to hating other people. Think about this. When they have a group and the purpose of the group is to express hatred for somebody else. So what does that mean? That means their happiness is dependent on somebody else. And as Buddha said, he who looks within awakens, he who looks without sleeps or dreams. How can I look into Eric-san and say, Eric-san, oh yeah, you this and that. My happiness has to come from myself. Only I can define for myself what my happiness is, what I enjoy, who I am, what I want to be, what kind of activities I like to take on. My mother doesn't know, my father doesn't know, my wife doesn't know. Actually, we all judge one another, but we really have no idea what people really need. Right? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, only you know who you are. I don't know who you are. I mean, you know what you like. But there's something we got to be careful about. So the relay marathon in which I threw up. So we have Jimmy Stewart here. Jimmy Stewart, Robert Wagner. I think Jimmy Stewart passed away years ago, 26 years ago when I ran the Jimmy Stewart marathon. I think Robert Wagner was there. I ran it one more time like 15 years ago. And here's the baton. I have it in my bag, so when you and I go to the track next time, we can practice passing the baton, if you like, if the opportunity is there. Okay, so we have to be careful about the boundary concerns, right? It is not that you're always saying no to other people. It is that once in a while, even though you are tired, but your brother needs help, so you get up, even though you are fatigued, to help him out. That's to show loyalty, that's to show care, that is to show love. That's okay. We're not saying you should not put yourself out to help the people you love, but what we are saying is it is important to not habitually forget your identity and to neglect yourself. That's the definition of codependency. So I threw up because I didn't want to let my coworkers down in the relay marathon. All right, so it's okay to say yes, it's okay to say no, but you are the boss. To the fence is to lock out the bad and locking the good. The boundary is like a fence. You open and you close it. So you want to make sure. It is very important that the boundary be open, but sometimes we are very egotistical, or I'm angry, I'm too proud, I'm too arrogant, I don't want to take help from Eric-san. Then I because of my ego, I use my boundary skills to close the fence. But then that actually kills me, because now I don't have a chance to grow, I don't have a chance to benefit from the insights you have. So it's very important, be careful not to blindly close your fence. Always be aware. Sometimes even though I'm very angry, very upset, but I keep the fence open because I know I'm missing some information and I need to go and learn. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. These are classical books written in the 1960s. Charles Whitefield, Unclear Boundaries. He talked about adult children of dysfunctional families. Listen to this very carefully. I read this book 19 years ago when Jojo was just born. After I read the book, I was shocked, Eric-san. You know why?
Why?
I said, they have never met Nai Nai. They have never met Ye Ye. They have never met other people in the family. How come they know them? I was so shocked. Unclear boundaries. Like sometimes, even today, I keep quiet at work or also at home with my wife because when they get angry, they escalate, they begin to scream. And I don't think it's a good time for me to continue the conversation, so I just keep quiet. That means my identity is less, is minimized. But I'm aware of it, and that's not my permanent state, meaning I can be very aggressive when I want to be, and I can be very productive. I can be very assertive. I can be very focused. I can be very proactive. So it is a technique that I take on to just keep quiet every now and then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I go out with Ye, sometimes we are one-on-one. He laughs and he jokes and he talks about poetry. He talks about his younger days. He talks about all kinds of things, but he never talks at home. But I think the marriage with Nine tends to be very kind of, gets upset, domineering. So Ye tend to, have his boundary is taken over by her. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, just recognize that. And inability to say no. I think people in our families, sometimes they did some things they don't want to do for too many years, too many decades. It got to a point where they are disempowered and they are very confused because of the inability to say no. Or maybe there was no choice in their mind, whatever it is. And the last trait of adult children of dysfunctional families is they have all or nothing behavior. I love you or I hate you. I want to give you everything or I want to kill you. They don't have any gray area in between. Okay? These are the three major traits I remember from the book. I ordered a copy of the book for you to read if you want to read it. If not, you can pass it to your parents, to Google, whoever. I read this book almost 20 years ago. I also ordered you a copy. I have it. I got it already. Deep Survival. If you're interested, you can take a look at it. If not, you can pass it to your mommy if she's interested. Boundary is actually the name of a book by two PhDs, Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And the definition of a boundary, as I shared previously, is really a fence that you close to keep out the bad and you're keeping the good. You open to take out the bad and letting the good. That's what the boundary is. So you are always judging on what Erickson wants to take into your life. And boundaries are formed in our lives on three different occasions. When you a toddler, toddlerhood, teenager years. At this point, your boundaries are being formed. Okay? And then in the late adolescent years, 19, 20, I think, that's where individuation happens. So when boundaries are damaged, there are two typical types of damages. One is they put up a castle wall, very thick wall, everything is locked. Nothing comes out, nothing goes in. They don't let, it's just no communication. Or there are people who have no boundaries. Oh yeah, woe is me. You can walk all over me, do whatever you want. I don't really care. I don't matter anyways. I don't count anyways. So these are the two extreme damages to the boundaries. When people are growing up, if they are hit, beat, abused, traumatized, too much poverty, their boundaries are damaged in life through physical violence, mental abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect and deprivation. Those cause people to be abnormal. Okay? But the good news is all of this can be healed. All of this can be healed. And here, Erickson, this is very important. For a while, for example, I was at LA Care and in this company, and I said to myself, well, the company really doesn't have any good processes in software development, and I take that to be my goal, right?
Yeah.
So that's my boundary, become my responsibility. It's a big responsibility. And then after some years, I started to look at it. I started to speak up. The management changed. The C-suite, CEO, CIO, COO, Chief Operating Officer, CTO, Chief Technology Officer, Chief Financial Officer, all these people, they have a new team of people. So I was able to communicate with some of them, and I talked it out. Then I realized they know everything that I know, and whether they want to do it a certain way is up to them. So how you define your boundary is how you define the responsibility of your life. Some people goes, I mean, Yeye goes, oh yeah, I just want your mom to be happy. But that is an impossible goal. You cannot make somebody else happy. They can make themselves happy. You cannot make them happy. And that's a goal you can never accomplish, and you will never be empowered. You will never be free. You will always be a slave to somebody else. And my goal is not for my wife to be happy, because whether you are a millionaire, whether you are a beggar, whether you have 10 companies, whether you have a big job or a small job, or whatever you do, everybody is unhappy about something. And there's nothing you can do to make them happy. They have to make themselves happy. So it's very important how you define your boundaries and who you are, where you begin and where you end. Usually your skin is where you begin. So when somebody physically beats you, they are violating your boundary. When you are put in jail, that's a violation of your boundary. When somebody abuses you, calls you names, they are violating your boundaries. But then you can redefine your boundaries. You can say, well, I respect your opinion, even if your opinion is bad about me. Codependent No More is a book. These people are raised to be codependent, and she has a book of affirmations. All of these can be found in the libraries. Drama triangle. Eric-san, this is very important. Probably not so important for you right now because you are very young. And I wish somebody told me this when I was 15, 16. And I wish I would listen. I wish I could have understood. I'm not sure if I would have been able to. You are much smarter than I was. Okay, drama triangle. Rescuer, victim, and persecutor. Oh, this guy, he doesn't have a car. Okay, I have 3 cars in my house. Let me lend him one of my cars. He takes my car, doesn't wash it. He puts trash all over it. He doesn't put gas in it. He doesn't change the oil. And the tires are flat. And I get really angry. Now I'm a victim. I say, hey man, what did you do with my car? I lent you my car to help you out. And then I become the persecutor, and I exit the drama triangle. You always enter the drama triangle as a rescuer. You always exit the drama triangle as a persecutor. Ye had a store, and there was a guy who was homeless. So they said, okay, I will let him sleep in the store. So he slept in the store, but then he started to be dirty, smelly, and making a mess. So they asked him the guy to leave. And the guy was really angry, and Ye was surprised, like, can you imagine he was angry? I said, well, I thought to myself, what do you think? The guy is homeless. Now he's going out into the cold, right? So be very careful. So anytime you come into a relationship, now you are young, it doesn't quite apply to you yet. Always be careful. Drama triangle is always there. You have the good idea, good heart. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, but do help. Help with boundaries, help with wisdom. Know how to help. I'm actually a minister in the church, as I mentioned to you, right?
Yeah.
So I was trained on how to help, how to set boundaries, how not to get into the mud with other people. So here we have 2 egos. Boundaries are no more in life. Territories, right? They have to eat. There's food. So they are fighting over the food, right?
Yeah.
Bless you. They are fighting to survive. And then sometimes we fight over resources so much and we refuse to back down. Their talons, their claws are hooked, and they fell to the ground. And this happened not only once, twice. If you Google, you will see lots of it. And you have heard of people. I'm not sure if you have heard of the saying. People say, "Did the cat get your tongue? Get your tongue, or bite your tongue?" Right?
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah. When people are talking, people say "bite your tongue," meaning you shouldn't be saying that. So here we have this parasite. It's an isopod. Isopod, okay? You can see it, right?
Yeah.
It's a bug.
Yeah.
It's an isopod that ate the tongue of the fish, and it sits there where the tongue used to be, and when the fish eats any food, he will take the food first. It's a parasite. So the boundary is really violated. Sometimes people do that to other people. They tell other people what to think, what to say, how to live, and they tell other people, I don't know, to make money for them and this and that. So it's very important to keep your boundaries and be very careful. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So now the question is, we talked about pacing. We talked about the law of the harvest. We talked about reaping what you sow. We talked about all these things. So what happened? Now we're talking about boundaries and so what happened to those laws, right? What happened to you reap what you sow? Remember we said you reap what you sow, karma,
Yeah.
what goes around comes around. The problem with codependency is that the boundaries are broken where you do not reap what you sow because somebody is reaping what you have sown. My Auntie Adora's father said to her 5 brothers, and her father said, "Listen, guys, don't get into trouble. Don't go into drinking, get drunk, fight over girls, over whatever stuff that you guys want to do. Because if you end up in jail, I will leave you in jail. I will leave you there to rot. I will not get you out." Okay?
Yeah.
That sounds really bad. But you know what? That teaches people personal responsibility. And I don't want to share too much family story. My yeye got this family member out and all of his gangster friends out of jail. And they were so proud of yeye, like, oh, look, they went and did this and that to other kids, other boys, and they were locked up by the cops. And my yeye went and got all of them out, and they were all heroes, right? Guess what? The boys never learned the lesson.
Also did it again.
They did it again and again and again and again and again, right?
Yeah.
So that's when you don't reap what you sow, that law is broken and the learning is weakened. For example, Eric-san, imagine you can go home, drink a Red Bull, and you can lift 250 pounds. Then you don't have to go to the gym anymore. You don't have to go to the gym 5 days a week to go with a trainer for the next 20 years, the next 2 years, so you can lift 250 pounds. You can have one drink and you can lift 250 pounds. Then you no longer have to sow, right? You can just reap, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't work. It never works like that. It can make you feel high, but you will never be able to lift 250 pounds without actually going through the law of the harvest, right?
Yeah.
So this is key. PPSPS, right? Posture, pacing, strategy, philosophy, spirit, and personal record, personal best. All of these systems, principles, they are designed to take the control inward. Remember, he who looks within awakens. Only you know how to set up your posture, right? Pacing, only you know what you pace. Only you know about the sing talk test, how far you can run and still sing, how quickly, how hard you have to run so you cannot talk. Only you know that, and that will change even for yourself within a day or within 1 year, depending on what condition you are in or how tired you are at the moment. So all of these systems are designed, Eric-san, for you to navigate using your internal principles. You're using your internal compass because only you know how fast you can run. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Whoever sows responsibility must face the consequences for the reap what you sow to work. If you're always breaking things and somebody is always fixing the broken things for you, you will never learn to stop breaking things, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea is to not be codependent. Do not change and sacrifice your preferred behavior. I mean, if you are being a pig and throwing food all over the ground, then that behavior has to change. But the idea is you need to, not you, everybody needs to find out what's important for them, what they want to do in life, so they can be happy. Because if they do things to make other people happy, then they become slaves and they become numb. because they are not getting what they want. So this is very important. So the number one boundary you have to set is the boundary to protect yourself so you can become who you are. You can become who you want to become. And at work, at home, everywhere you go, there will be people who will get angry with things. I have people who shake, coworkers, she would turn pale, turn pink, and in my family on the in-law side as well, they would shake. So angry. Okay, I just back off, right? Because it looks like they're gonna go out of control, and I'm not there to look for trouble. But conversation stops. But I go away from them because that's not how I want to live. So boundaries, our personal boundary is our ticket to freedom and happiness. Whether you want to be a teacher, engineer, run a Macy's store, whatever you want to do, you know what you want to do. Nobody else really knows. So love is to not rescue. People say, oh yeah, Eric, how come you don't rescue Kai, this and that? What's wrong with you? But Kai has a lesson he needs to learn. If he's going to get hit by a truck, you yell at him and grab him out of the street. But otherwise, you are not responsible for him. You cannot live for him. You cannot watch him 24 hours a day. So we talked about the drama triangle already. It seems to be counterintuitive, but to rescue somebody is not loving them. That actually puts them into slavery because they will never learn good habits. They will never learn how to face reality because you are there putting up with them and supporting them in their ways. Loss of power and powerlessness is because the focus is to please other people. This is only for the codependent people. It's not. There are people who are lazy. There are people who are confused. There are people who like to go with gangsters. So there are different problems. But this is only about codependency. Best practices. What you say about me is none of my business. So you respect people's opinion and you let it be. So that means you set up psychological boundary. You set up emotional boundaries. When people say harsh words to you, you train yourself to say, okay, it's like cracking a nut. After you crack the nut, you eat the cashew inside. You eat the almond inside. You do not eat this broken shell. It will cut your tongue, right? So when people give you something, you look at it, you say, okay, what can I use? What can I eat from this? And the rest, you just reject it. It's fine. I'm not responsible for your upbringing. I cannot control you. I respect your choices. And, you need to learn about your life as I need to learn about my life. Another best practice principle is tend to your own garden. People whose needs are met can meet the needs of other people. The Southwest CEO takes care of his employees because he believes his employees will take care of the customers. Same idea. If Eric-san is happy, empowered, very, very enthusiastic about his life, then he can share his enthusiasm with other people. And this is also a key. If you are not free to say no, then you are not free to say yes. If in a relationship, you have to say yes so you don't get beat up, so you can get friendship, so you can get whatever, then it's not really a friendship. Sometimes you have to do that because you are in a situation where they have more power than you do. They can fire me at my work, so I don't talk back because I'm looking for trouble. So I just keep quiet. I don't want to be insubordinate, which can get me fired. It might get me immediate dismissal. So, but remember, in any relationship that's win-win, you should be able to say no and you should be able to say yes. But people say when somebody is young, they want to do something foolish, you have to stop them. So that raising a child is different. I'm talking to you as if you are an adult. Boundary has to do with gaining control over myself so I can do the most fulfilling thing. Check this out. That I'm created to do, and that is to love. So I figure out who I am and I choose to do what I think I want to do, and I get the chance to do it as best as I can, and that will bring me happiness, hopefully. And then as I'm happy, I'm able to share my happiness and share the love with other people. That came from the book, Boundaries, by the two of them. Boundary places me in a position of freedom. Because within your own boundary, which you didn't give up to anybody else, that's where your freedom to choose. Then you have the choice. For example, I'm a minister in the church. That means I'm laying down my life for somebody other than myself. That's what that means. I hope this is not too boring. Some stuff is coming up, and I'm trying to cover. This is slide 10. We have 18 more slides to go. It's 9:49. The source of all suffering is attachment, right? So check this out, Eric-san. The source of all suffering is attachment. So what that means is our psychological boundary is taken over by the things and the house and the money and the job and the title and the education that we have. That's the source of all suffering. So when my identity, we live in a, this is maybe too much for you right now. We have to find an identity outside of ourselves. We have to, they call it the referential reality. For example, Eric-san, what's your name?
Eric.
That's a name you call yourself, right? Where are you?
In Hacienda Heights.
Okay, so you are referring to a place. Who is your teacher?
I have a lot of teachers. I have like 5 teachers.
Okay, so you have to refer to them by names, right?
Yeah.
That's called referential reality. We live in a reality that we cannot say who we are without referring to something or some place. Eric is my name. Hacienda is my house. Those 5 teachers are my teachers. But who are you outside of all these things? You are just a spirit, right? PPSPS, the last one is a spirit. So the spirit has to refer to something so we know who you are and what you are and where you are, right?
Yeah.
And when you have become too attached to those things which if you have become too attached to Hacienda Heights, you become too attached to those teachers, then you have suffering. Then you cannot leave when you have to die, right? So set boundaries with duality. This is a topic. This is more advanced. So all of these things, the 10 Commandments, Torah is the Jewish book, Quran is the Muslim book, the Bible is a Christian book. All of them have the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments basically help you to set boundaries. You can look at it some other time. Lao Tzu, the fortune cookie, wisdom, the handouts I gave you, they also help you to set boundaries so you do not create negative karma. You want to open the fence to good karma. You want to close your fence, you close your boundary to bad karma, right? So you can have happiness and power and freedom in your life. Confucius, same thing. The teaching from Confucius, the same idea. And same idea with PS, they help you to set healthy boundaries with running or any topic in your life. PS is not a religion, obviously. Just a set of principles that allows you to gauge from within yourself how you should approach certain things so it's enjoyable. Codependent No More. Codependent self, it's a disease of lost self, right? You let other people speak your words for you, like that isotope in the mouth of the fish, remember? Live your life. Don't let somebody else live your life. Then you will lose your identity. You figure out. I actually know people who became doctors and lawyers, and they hated it, so they changed their profession. Don't let people control you with guilt, shame, and obligation. You need to figure out who you are and go and find that so you can be the greatest that person. Codependence needs to take care of and take responsibility for other people, where their own needs and feelings are suppressed along with their own wisdom. This is from the book. So be very careful. Figure out who you are, because only you can be brilliant as Eric-san. Nobody else can be brilliant for you, and you cannot be brilliant for anybody else. So that's very important. To nurture the inner self. We're talking about the inner self, the inner child. So I'm talking to the inner child now. And because of the Chinese Revolution, the Communist War, there are a lot of codependent, dysfunctional stuff running around. It's a balance, right? Some people are too selfish. Some people are too much of an inner child. Some people are too codependent. But the idea is it's a balance. And going back to PPSPS, okay, I'm free from you and I'm free from God. I'm free. Now, what I do with my freedom is called responsibility. So your responsibility is to figure out who you are and do what you want to do. That's most beneficial for you first, and then you can benefit other people. So here, I probably got carried away with too many slides. Okay, I need to keep on going. The identity of a child is within the identity of the mother, which is understood when you are a child. But when this happens to adults, like maybe myself, maybe Yeye, maybe somebody else, then this is a dysfunction. This is codependence. This is very, very bad. This is when they are separating, the identity are separating. Then there are cases where a group of people think alike. They call it the groupthink. JFK had the groupthink in the invasion of Cuba. Child psyche is within moms, individuation, separating identity. Groupthink is good if aligned with correct principles. Dysfunctional codependent identity remains like a child. So number 4 is what we don't want to be, very important. Toxic parents are victims as well. We are victims of victims. Louise Hay, this is a good book. I'm not sure if you will be interested in it. I must have bought like 30 copies of this book and given it away. Then when you think win-win, right? When we set boundaries with other people, we try to go for win-win or no deal. Not for lose-win, not for lose-lose, and not for win-lose. Win-lose is I mean I can go beat up Kai, and I'm the strong guy. Or somebody is bigger than me. Okay, I let them beat me up. Or I beat somebody up and they beat me up. We both lose. These are not beneficial, really. Win-win or no deal. What does win-win and no deal mean? We will talk about that. So we talked about this life glacier previously. Boundary skills fall within existential principles, which consist of boundary skills, ego skills, emotional intelligence. So we talked about if you keep the fence closed as your boundary and you keeping the bad and you don't letting the good, you will rot. It's very important. People get trapped when their ego is bigger than their skills. When their anger and their ego are bigger than their skills, then they are dead because they are so angry, they don't want to ask people. Their ego is so big, and they are angry with other people. Other people are afraid to talk to them. So now they have no way of improving their skills. Then they are trapped. This happens. This happens a lot. I have seen it many times at work, at home, and I'm sure it happens to me. But I'm always studying. I'm always trying to learn. If you have something to teach me, because you are born in a different time and space, Eric-san. You go to school, I have no idea what you guys talk about. I have no idea what you guys do. Fortnite, what kind of game you guys play. So you guys know many things I don't know, and I'm happy to learn. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through too much of this. Best alternative to a negotiated agreement, right? If you say win-win or no deal, say at my work, my management said they are going for win-lose, and I only see lose for myself, am I ready to walk out? Am I ready to quit? That's what win-win or no deal means. But in order to do that, you must have an option, right? You must have somewhere to go. You must have some other way of making money, right? And they call that the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. This is based on the book Getting to Yes from the Harvard Negotiation Project. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff out at you. Trying harder, being nicer, taking responsibility for other people doesn't make our lives work better. Okay, we need to understand that. Boundaries is a property line. Their purpose is to let you know what you are responsible for. The functions of boundaries, we talked about this. This is kind of a review now. Protect the freedom. Your skin, we talked about your words, distance, Mark Twain, criticizing people. Feelings, attitudes, and behavior, these are yours. Boundaries are what gives us a sense of purpose and direction. Right? It's very important. You can think about that. To Eric-san, know where you begin and end and guard that boundary. Identify yourself with empowering principles. Take responsibility for yourself and not for other people, because you cannot. You cannot take responsibility for myself, for Kai, for your father. You can help, but you cannot be responsible because you are not them. You are lucky if you can be responsible for yourself. I'm lucky if I can be responsible for my own temper, my own work. You can take responsibility for what is within your boundary, and that is not selfishness. That is not selfishness. Some people say, oh, you're selfish, you only take care of yourself. Self-mastery, self-reliance, self-determination, that means you know who yourself is, where you are, and what you like to do, so you can tend to your own garden. So this is very important. Live and let live, move on with your life, and let others move forward with their lives. When you have the freedom to be yourself and you can be truly happy and aligned with the correct principles, happiness can lead to contentment and love for other people, where your cup overflows. So that's my wish for you, Eric-san. I know I'm going through a lot of stuff, probably not 100% clear. Variety of bad fruits. Some people who are codependent, or they become depressed because they don't know who they are. They are not getting what they want. They don't have freedom, power, and full self-expression in life. They become depressed. They are angry. They have resentment. They become obsessive. They have obsessive compulsive behavior because they need something to control. Since they cannot control themselves, they have to figure out how to get some control somehow in their lives. That's why children wear their beds. That's why old people, they act up. Relational symptoms stem from a sense of loss, freedom of love. Functional symptoms: inability to finish a job, extreme disorganization, low energy level, and problems of concentration. So all of these are consequences of boundary problems. You see that, Eric-san?
Yeah.
So all of these can be reversed. In my experience, I shy away from all medication if I can at all help it. I haven't taken any medication for the last 10 years, I would say, 20 years. I don't know. I don't take anything. So the idea is these boundary damages are very severe, can cause a lot of unhappiness. But the good thing is, if you begin to understand it, then you can try to first secure it for yourself, then help those people that you think you can help. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, son. Any boundary can fail. All boundaries will fail at some point, right? At the end, there will come a day when I can no longer lift my hand. There will come a day when I won't be able to raise my head. There will come a day when I won't be able to walk. The question is not if, the question is when. So what's the point? The point is, like Buddha said, the source of all suffering is attachment. Let go of your attachment as much as you can, as quickly as you can, even now. I have been preparing for my own death for the last 20 years. I'm ready to go anytime. Not that I'm negative, I want to commit suicide. I'm very positive. The best of my life is yet to come. I've been to 50 plus countries, and I will do the greater things I have never done yet. I'm just getting started. But I'm ready to go anytime. Why? Because people die on the freeway going home today, right?
Yeah.
So tomorrow is not promised to anybody. So all boundaries will fail. And be prepared. Be prepared. Don't be attached. But the main idea is, while you are alive on this earth, at least survive and help other people, and then have a good time. Build new boundaries, or psychologically detach and renounce. In the Buddhist theory, Hindu Buddhist, Japan is a big Buddhist country. Remember we talked about the precise reflection principle?
Yeah.
Everything is a result of causes and conditions that have come to it. this piece of paper, I'm wrinkling it now. Now it looks like this because of what I did to it. So in the karma theory, everything happens for a reason. If you know what the reason is, then you can prevent it, or you can create it, or you can reverse it, right?
Yeah.
That's what we are trying to accomplish. So rather than building a new wall, and I'm not talking about Japan. I'm only talking to you in theory, in principle. People tell me, "Oh, don't do this and don't do that. You're gonna this and that." And I say, "Look, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go, right?" So I try my best. I follow the fortune cookie wisdom, the 2 pieces of paper I gave you. Over there, it says, if you do something small, bad, it's 100 days reduction in your lifespan. If you do something really bad, that's big, it's 12 years deduction in your lifespan. You will die 12 years sooner. So Lao Tzu spelled it out. So, I mean, nobody deserves anything. Don't get me wrong. What I'm trying to say is practice identifying the principles. So codependence, I want to review the principles with you. Some of these things, when you become conscious, then you'll be able to spot codependent behavior, depression, anxiety, boundary issues, dysfunctional traits, inability to say no, unclear boundaries, all or nothing behavior. You will be able to spot it. You'll be able to see it in yourself, and you can change that. Healing your inner child and to understand what's in your unconscious mind. This is very important. Tend to your needs and getting what you want is the opposite of codependence. And this can happen to any culture, in any country, to anybody. So this is a repeat. Codependence is a principle. It's predictable, repeatable, works anywhere, anytime, works with or without your understanding. So if anybody is living for somebody else's happiness, taking responsibility for somebody else's life, they will be codependent and they will be unhappy, they will be unfulfilled. That is a principle, like the gravity. So principle is not good or bad. It is what it is. All right. So principles, you can change the gender, the race, the number of siblings you have, but you will always get what you always get. And principles are good because why? Because they are reliable. They are your best friends. They will guide you and protect you. Healing the inner child, healing the child within, boundaries spoke, codependent, no more. Okay, this is another fantastic view of boundaries. Circle of concerns versus circle of influence. Here, where you live, where you work, what you read, what you buy, your skills you want to learn, leadership positions you want to have, articles and books you want to write, business you want to start, places you want to travel to. This is your circle of control. Focus on this. This will give you more power. But if you focus on the circle of concern or the weather, the news, Trump, the war, the air, the population growth, what other people think about you, Kardashians and all that stuff, you are not gaining any power. You are focusing on things out there which may not benefit you. So the boundary is keep your focus and let your boundary be open to all of these. And these things, yeah, if you are really, really bored, got nothing better to do for 5-10 minutes, and go relax with these things. But they do not empower you. They do not give you more power in life. It's wasted. You see this? It's wasted. And then if you focus your energy on what is within your control, you become more powerful. Make sense?
Yeah.
Boundary. Viktor Frankl, he was in a concentration camp. His wife and children were killed in the concentration camp. The Nazis were doing experiments on his body. He was in Dachau, I think. And they were experimenting on his body, so he visualized in his own mind. They were experimenting on his body in the concentration camp. He visualized that he was doing an experiment about surviving the concentration camp so he can teach it in the universities, which he did. He came out and he taught and he wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning, Logotherapy. This book is written by him. And here is where he found the last human freedom is that under any circumstances, you have the freedom to choose your own response based on your self-awareness, your imagination, your conscience, and your independent will. You don't have to do groupthink. You don't have, you can have your own identity and not have the identity of the people who try to dominate you. So this is called the final human freedom. The last human freedom is the freedom to choose any response to any stimulus. Make sense?
Yeah.
This is a key lesson. I'm telling you, man. I didn't learn this until many years afterwards. So at any one time, there are many principles. Should you be selfish? Should you take care of your somebody else? Should you take care of yourself? Should you focus on studies? Only you know. You need to figure out at the end, you live and die by yourself, Eric-san. So you cannot make anybody happy. You have to make yourself happy. At least you have to try. Don't be selfish, but neither be a slave. So here, this is what I was trying to say earlier on. Posture pacing strategy philosophy. Remember philosophy, right? For running, you can quit without stopping. You can finish without pushing. No one would know. No one but you. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
So here, no one would know whether you are self-caring or selfish or codependent, or nobody knows. Only you know, right?
Yeah.
So you are the only judge of yourself that counts besides karma. Like, for example, people say, oh yeah, Jerry, you are selfish, you are lazy, this and that. It's like, okay, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And I really don't give it any importance. I'm not arrogant. I'm not even confident, but I live according to some principles. And I have studied principles for so long, I have some confidence about it. So when people accuse me, they tell me, oh, you don't know what you are doing. You don't know how to be a project manager. But I've been a project manager almost 40 years, 30 years. I know what it is. And if somebody tells me I don't know, I just laugh to myself because I'm so sure I know it. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm deluded, but I'm sure, I'm positive. Because I know the principle, because you know where the gravity is, and people can say whatever they want to say. You bow to them, and domo arigato. So here is a quick introduction of the 7 habits of highly effective people. It's a system of setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, to be effective. First, you are dependent. You be proactive. You take ownership for yourself. Begin with the end in mind. You know what you want from your life. Then you put first things first. You take steps to get what you want from your life. This gives you the private victory, and you become independent. Say if you can drive and you can go make $20 per hour as a part-time person, now you can eat and you can live on your own. And then you can go to school part-time. That's the worst case. The best case is you get scholarship to an Ivy League Tier 1 college, and somehow, somewhere, it comes together. That's a different situation. But you're going to make the difference because either you're going to study hard and get there, or you have to work your way through it. And then you get at some point you become independent. But we live in an interdependent world. Tonight, if you're not here, I have nobody to do the seminar with. I have recorded so many videos by myself, and I have friends I can ask, but what's the point, right? Why take their time if they're not interested, or if they're not, like Jojo, she was never interested. She was always too busy, too many friends, too many things going on, which is fine. Independent. Habit number 4, think win-win, right? So now you are going from independence to interdependence with other people. Think win-win. So is all effective long-term relationships are win-win by nature. So if my relationship with you is not a win for you, not a win for me, it cannot last. Marriage cannot last, work cannot last, families cannot last. Everything has to be win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Mutual understanding. Then you synergize. Okay, you see it this way, I see some other way. What can we do? So you go from dependence to independence to interdependence, and habit number 7 is to sharpen the saw. Nowadays I'm on a push. I go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week, and I work hard. This is a story about going back to the culture where you are from, the Japanese. This Japanese captain, let's put it in terms of boundaries. he has this principle of honor, and he takes it so seriously that when the Mazda ship leaked, the cars rusted, he killed himself, harikiri, because he felt, it's a true story, this is not even a joke, this is real, and he felt he had let down. If you Google just these words, it will come up. He will, are you there or you're gone? Oh, you're there. Eric.
There.
Okay, so here, the cup overflows. Every disciplined effort creates multiple rewards. Boundaries gives you freedom. So the art of execution framework, we are getting small pieces of it. So Eric-san, good luck and practice diligently. I hope tonight was okay. Wasn't too boring. Any thoughts you want to share?
It was interesting.
Was interesting for you? Thank you so much.
Yep.
Anything you'd like to share?
I can maybe like use some of these like principles at school and in track. I'll try.
Fantastic. I like how you speak loud and clear. You take control of the floor when you speak. Look straight into the camera if you know where it is. And next time, if you have some other principles you want to talk about, let me know. Jabber it to me. You can tell me now or text me today, tomorrow, next week, next month, whenever. We can do one even while you are in Japan, or eventually you can do one yourself, and I can work with you to set up the laptop, to have the recording. All the software is free. The software recording, the video recording software is free. Then you can do some seminars yourself, and then we can just go back and forth. So if you like to, of course, you are free to say no. You are free to say yes. You know, we can do it 5 years from today, or we can never do it. Whatever goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Eric-san. Thank you. You look really great in that shirt. I'll see you tomorrow. Think about where you want to go.
Okay.
All right, man. Thank you.